Joining us right now, live from Hollywood, it's the one, the only Jason Nathanson of ABC News, the ABC News entertainment correspondent, in fact. And last night was TV's big night, Jason Nathanson.
It was absolutely a very exciting night in Los Angeles, and Breaking Bad takes it, Modern Family takes it. It was a pretty predictable night. It was a big night, but it was predictable.
Well, it is predictable, I suppose, but some people were thinking, well, listen, Breaking Bad, it was their final season, and a lot of times, you know, the Emmys like to reward an ongoing concern, a series that, you know, could still get a boost in the ratings based on winning that Emmy, but I guess Breaking Bad was just too great in that final season to ignore.
Sure, absolutely. I'm not saying it's a bad thing necessarily that it's predictable, but that was, you know, the knock on a lot of award shows, that they are predictable. And the Emmys actually usually are consistently give us the biggest surprises. You think the last year where Jeff Daniels won for The Newsroom, nobody thought that he would beat Bryan Cranston for Breaking Bad. That happened last year. Aaron Paul lost last year for Best Supporting Actor. So this year, you know, Breaking Bad was given its due in its last and final season, but a lot of people thought True Detective, in the one and only season that would feature Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, that maybe that could sneak through, or that Orange is the New Black might get through in the comedy category. But apparently Netflix Emmy voters don't have Netflix and have never seen the shows, because now for 2 years House of Cards has not really done that well, and Orange is the New Black did not get no wins last night.
You know, I'm struck by the fact that the shows that we're talking about, by and large, are not network television shows, with the exception of Modern Family, which has always done very well with the critics. It seems to me that, you know, television has really changed, and the really good stuff is no longer on network television.
Absolutely, and that's been the case now for a little while, at least when it comes to the shows have slowly moved away from the networks and onto cable, and that's where you're getting the stuff that's, like, you know, critically acclaimed. Maybe not a whole lot of people in the regular viewing audiences are watching it. You know, one of the shows that won big last night was the Sherlock movie on PBS. I'm sure not a lot of people in the audience this morning watched it. I certainly didn't, and a lot of people didn't expect it to win. But then you have also shows like Fargo on FX that are winning. It's a small show on FX. You know, again, not a whole lot of people watch, and you know, a lot of buzz and a lot of nominations for Netflix last night, but it's having trouble pulling through and winning in the big category. I expect that'll change maybe over the next couple of years as that gets a little, Netflix viewing gets a little more mainstream, at least for the Emmy voters. But, you know, getting the nominations, at least for them, is a win for now.
Well, I'm a passionate fan of both Sherlock and Fargo. I thought they were excellent pieces. I was very happy that they won, especially Benedict Cumberbatch as Best Actor there for Sherlock. Let me ask you this, though, because you were backstage. Sarah Silverman, she's on the red carpet. She shows off her vaporizer, and she says it's full of liquid marijuana. And then she wins her Emmy. She runs on stage barefoot, and her way of thanking her agents was unique. She said, "I'd like to thank my Jews at CAA." Then talked about how we're all just molecules hurtling through space. Let's face it, she was stoned, wasn't she? You can tell us, Jason.
She was asked backstage if she was stoned, and she said she wasn't, and I tend to believe her, because actually her speech, while a little loopy and the cosmic thing at the end was a little strange, she was sharp at the beginning, and I think she was a little too sharp to be stoned, and if you see her on the red carpet, she's also, again, a little sharp, and backstage, she was sharp enough and funny enough where she probably wasn't stoned, but I bet you the second she left us, she went to smoke something.
See, Jason, you've been at Hollywood too long. You're immune to it. They're all walking around on something. Well, what did happen that was kind of crazy backstage that none of us would have seen on camera?
That was probably the craziest thing. I mean, you know, they come back and they're all very happy and they're excited and they won, but things don't tend to get too nuts. Sofia Vergara was kind of interesting because somebody asked. I guess there was. I didn't really see it too. You know, I catch the show in fits and starts here. So there was this thing where she was on a pedestal while Bruce Rosenblum, who's the president of the Academy, was speaking. And, you know, he comes out and he gives a boring speech and nobody pays attention anyway. So I think the bit was Sofia Vergara stands there on a pedestal, so you actually sit there and watch because she's fun to look at.
Right.
And immediately a bunch of people thought it was sexist, right? So on the internet, they took it and they're like, you know, she's a beautiful woman. She doesn't need to just stand there to be eye candy, whatever. So she was asked about that backstage, and she said, she basically told everybody, look, chill out, calm down. I thought it was funny. I know I'm a hot chick, so, you know, I think it's funny when I can stand there and kind of make fun of myself. You know, there's nothing anti-feminist about it. Just everybody chill out and have a sense of humor.
What about Seth Meyers? How did he do?
I thought he did pretty well. Again, I mean, he kind of stuck to, look, I'm going to tell jokes at the monologue, and then you'll see me pop up here and there. And I thought overall the show was pretty funny. Again, it's one of those things, I don't really get to watch every second of it, so I couldn't rate it. But backstage, people seem to like him. And I think it's kind of how the show should be. It's not about the host and how they can sing and dance and do some of these boring numbers that they do.
Somebody who just moves the show along, right?
Tell jokes and get off stage. That's what people want.
Meanwhile, speaking of telling jokes, a lot of people were buzzing on social media last night and still this morning about Billy Crystal's tribute to Robin Williams. Tell us about that, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely. So he comes out, and right after the In Memoriam segment, Billy Crystal comes out and does 3.5, 4 minutes of talking about his friend, Robin Williams. They've been, friends for decades. It was moving. It was funny at times. There were, the audience was laughing at some of the stuff he said, recounting stories of just how crazy Robin Williams was and how funny he was. And I think it was really nice. And then they ended with a montage, and the montage itself ended with a very kind of a fitting tribute. It wasn't a funny thing, but it was kind of a more serious stage thing that he had done, and I thought it was just kind of really fitting and nice. And, backstage, everybody thought it was very, very moving.
That's cool. And also, by the way, just swinging back to the awards, we're seeing a lot of play of this moment where Julia Louis-Dreyfus goes up to win her Best Actress in a Comedy.
That was very funny.
And Bryan Cranston, of course, who was the winner for Breaking Bad, I guess, takes her and basically makes out with her in the front row. What was that all about?
Yeah, it was funny because they had talked about that when they were presenting award earlier in the night, and the two of them were together on Seinfeld, which a lot of people may or may not remember, but he was Dr. Watley, the dentist on Seinfeld, way back when he had, I think, one episode, and they kissed, and so he kind of reminded her about that while they were presenting, and she pretended not to remember, and then, of course, when she wins, Julia Louis-Dreyfus is funny because she knows she's going to win, so she always has something planned that was funny. And so they planned to kiss like that when she went up there. And backstage, she told us that she asked her husband if it would be okay. Bryan Cranston asked his wife if she would mind if the two of them kissed. And she told us that Bryan Cranston really went for it with the kiss. And
yeah, he sure did.
And she loved his level of commitment.
Yeah, it was he was all in, as you say, all in.
All right, Jason Nathanson, thanks for joining us, and get some sleep, man. I know you've been partying with Sarah Silverman all night. We'll just leave it at that.
If I was partying with Sarah Silverman, I would not be awake.
Yeah, you'd be eating some Cheetos right now. All right, thank you.